My speech this morning is actually about some pretty serious content going on in our community. I don't know how many of you very closely watch the city council meetings or pay attention to the news locally here in Rochester, but a really big conversation throughout all of the pandemic has been what we're going to do to support people who are homeless in Rochester. I'm sure a lot of you have started to see more and more panhandlers on every possible side of the road holding cardboard signs asking for help. In addition, we had the issue with the skyways a couple of years ago, which really prompted a lot of city and county action of trying to find out where people could go if the skyways were their only option. And I am really hoping to draw a little bit of attention and paint a picture for you as to the complexity of this issue, to give you just a sense of what it is us in the social services realm are really dealing with. And hopefully after that, I can give you some steps forward, some thoughts as to how to, one, be helpful to this issue, but also to be aware of what's really going on in this community. So the first story I have isn't one that actually happened in Rochester. It's one that's actually happened in lots of places all over the country. A little boy is born to a single mother. His mother is a teenager. She has been addicted to heroin for most of her youth and all of her adult life. She is not educated. She is not literate. She did not finish the 9th grade. And because of her heroin addiction, this little boy and his twin sister are both born premature and born already addicted to the drug. After they are born, their mother moves them to a project in Baltimore. And this project is dealing with all kinds of legal issues because the project has subjected its residents to lead poisoning. Now, just to give you some reference, if you have more than 7 to 10 micrograms of lead in your system at any given time, you're probably going to be dealing with health repercussions for the rest of your life. And by the time this little boy is 2 years old, he has 19 micrograms of lead in his system. The question that this story prompts is, when people say to me, people in difficult and impoverished situations should just work harder, how much harder could a 2-year-old in that situation have worked? This situation gets even more complicated when you learn that 23, 25 years later, this little boy would die in police custody for no other reason than looking at a police officer and running away. This little boy's name was Freddie Gray. The next story I have to tell you is actually a very personal one. This past Christmas Eve, I was working. I work every Christmas Eve. It's the story of the nature of my position. And our social services office had closed up. It was the end of the day. Myself and only one other coworker were remaining in the office. We're getting ready to go home. And this was a time when the city and the county and Mayo Clinic had worked together to open up the Civic Center as a 24/7 shelter for anybody that needed a place to go. There was no reason that anybody should have slept outside or in a parking garage over the Christmas holiday. So as we're starting to close up, a man walks into the office. He's very well bundled up. He's carrying a very large backpack. It very much fits the definition or the stereotypical image of a homeless individual. And I'm expecting to be able to tell him with great relief, this is where the shelter is. It's only 2 blocks away. Have a happy Christmas. Good luck to you. And instead, he says, I need a place to go. I don't want to go to the shelter. I don't feel safe there. When I say, oh, well, let me call our friends at the police department, they're happy to escort you over and address anything that's making you feel unsafe. He says, no, I don't want to call the police. And I asked why. And his first answer was, I don't trust the police. His second answer was, the police are out to get me. And as I was talking to this gentleman, it became very clear very quickly whether he was even able to think clearly. I don't know. But there was no solution that I could present to him that he was amenable to. And I could tell that he was looking for the simple answer of, I need to be housed. Who can I go that will give me a place to stay other than this resource, this shelter resource in the community? It got to a point where after about 5 minutes, this man started crying and he shouted, "It's not fun being homeless, so what am I supposed to do?" And all I could say to this intoxicated person that didn't want to use any resource we had available to him was, "I don't know." And this man wiped away his tears and put his glove back on and walked out into the cold. And I went home to my very loving, very supported, very middle class family over Christmas Eve. And on Christmas Day, I woke up thinking, I've never been more aware of all of the privileges and blessings that I've had in my life than I am in this moment, realizing that somebody else came to me for help and still ended up sleeping outside in a parking garage on Christmas Eve into Christmas morning. Not even a 24/7 shelter in one of the biggest facilities that we have in Rochester, the Taj Mahal of shelters, big enough to house 3 times the number of homeless individuals that we have in this city at any given point, could prevent that from happening. And a third story just happened this week. We had a gentleman walk into the front office of my building, and he said, "Is there someone that I can speak to? I need to be de-escalated." Usually when this happens, it means someone's looking to speak to one of our pastors, just needing someone to listen to them and lend a comforting ear, or somebody is suicidal and they're looking to hurt themselves. They need to speak to either one of our pastors or one of our social workers. So I go and I grab Major Bob, my boss. He's one of our executive directors. He's been a pastor for 30 years. And he sits down with this gentleman in the front office, in the front lobby. And I'm just sitting here overhearing this conversation thinking, great, he's got Major Bob. This will be fine. This will be exactly what he needs. And Major Bob will be able to help this man. And rather than being a conversation of this man just needing someone to talk, this man proceeded to talk about how he doesn't want to be housed. He wants people to just let him live in a tent without the added result of everyone calling him a crackhead, a pill popper, or a pedophile. His dream in life was to open, I think he called it a dispensary, where he would grow weed and sell weed to people. He said he didn't know where he was going to get $20,000 to $40,000 to start that, but he was convinced that if he could get to Oregon, that he would be able to make that happen. He also talked about how his mother was never supportive at all. In fact, he hated her so much that he knew if he saw her again that he would kill her, which prompted about a 15-minute conversation about, well, really not a conversation, a 15-minute rant about all the different ways that he could kill a person with his belt, and that he was probably 6 months away from snapping and actually doing this to somebody the next time somebody said something to him that pissed him off. This man used the F word just about every other word. This man was in no way calm or rational. Whether this man was actually on some kind of drug, I have no idea. Maybe this was just an issue of mental illness. Maybe this is just an issue of a person who genuinely doesn't know what is socially appropriate for any different circumstance. But this is a kind of person who, after you talk to them, you're obligated to call the police and warn them about an issue or a threat to public safety. This is a kind of person who will never work in a traditional work environment. He won't last more than a couple of days at the most if somebody even gives him a chance with this kind of behavior. And we talk about having affordable housing here in Rochester. No housing complex, even if this man had a reasonable credit score, no housing complex is going to house somebody who poses a threat and actively threatens their other residents. So it's wonderful that our city is working so hard to create more affordable housing options in Rochester. And I'm not in any way saying that there are not people that need those options. But what I am saying is a lot of these people who are chronically homeless, the people that you're seeing on the side of the street, the people that shelters, these are not the people who are going to utilize that resource. Part of it is because some of them don't want to, like in this gentleman's case. Part of it is that some of them will just not be able to sustain that kind of housing. These are not people that will be housed without some sort of a supportive resource able to keep them in that house situation. So knowing all of those different things, what I didn't want to do is make anybody feel hopeless or feel like there are not solutions available, or to in any way make people feel that they need to be cynical about the people that they see on the side of the street. I think it's critical that the next two things that I say are the things that you take away from this speech and the things that you think about the next time you see a person in this situation, because we're getting to a point in Rochester where you will, it's unavoidable. The first thing is to be compassionate. No two people that we see, even if they come to us with the same issue, are dealing with the same battles, are fighting the same fight. We get back to this story of Freddie Gray. I have no idea if somebody coming to us for rental assistance, if somebody coming to us saying that they're homeless, if somebody coming to us saying, I just need a meal, has been in a situation where they were born to a single mother who was an addict, who moved them into a place where they were lead poisoned by the time they were 2. Or if this is a person who truly just doesn't know what's appropriate or how to spend money, and they've gotten themselves into a situation like this because of their own poor choices. Either way, you can't make assumptions about the people that you see. And I would encourage you more often than not to try and exercise compassion in every avenue that you can. The other thing that I think is absolutely critical is being open-minded. I was so relieved. I was very concerned about this, and I was so relieved about the direction that it took. I had a conversation with the religious community and with Channel 1 Regional Food Bank in the last couple of weeks. And the conversation was all about Channel 1 deciding that food drives are not the best way to get food to people in need. They're not cost effective. They're not time efficient. They take a lot of extra staff work. And oftentimes the food that you get is expired food that people stick out of their own pantries because they don't want it anymore. And the problem with the religious community was this was an opportunity for them that they'd used for decades to get kids involved and to let parents teach their kids about what generosity is. And now what's fantastic is with them being open-minded to this not being the best way to serve people, all of a sudden the conversation turns to, what can we do? And all of a sudden we're thinking in all sorts of ingenious and innovative ways about the best ways for agencies and churches and just general people in the community to serve this population of people that is in need of food, that is food insecure. It's the same thing with this issue of homelessness. If you have questions, if you see this issue and this is something that you're so passionate about and you want to do something to help, don't be the person that says, well, obviously there are people in need, there must not be anybody that's working to help these individuals. There are, I could probably list 15 different agencies in Rochester, nonprofit organizations that are actively working with this population of people. Start by asking those organizations about the problem, and then ask what are things that they are seeing as successful solutions, as things that people are doing that are actually making a difference to that population, that are actually solving the problems that these people are facing, and go from there. Rather than creating a whole new infrastructure and trying to start something from the ground up, you'll be starting at a place so much further towards the finish line if you work with the people who already have boots on the ground and utilize their years of knowledge and experience working with this population to really do some good. It's not an easy thing. I know that it's so hard to see somebody on the side of the road and think, I'm going to my comfortable home tonight and this person's not. And that's really terrible. And it's a horrible thing to feel. But at the end of the day, you don't know what that person is fighting. You don't know what they're going through. And unless you take the time to really learn what resources are available for that person and what it is that you can do to make a difference, you're just going to continue feeling that way, and we're not going to get towards real solutions as a community. I hope this has given you all something to think about. I hope you feel more hopeful than not, and I hope you feel a little bit more educated about what's really going on in this town. Madam Toastmaster, I'll hand this back to you.